So I'm going to move on and do another example. This time we're going to level up from the type of class that we looked at in example 1, and we're going to declare a class, except this time the class is going to have an additional method inside of it. So I'm just going to create a comment, and this will be example number 2. We're going to be defining an additional method inside of our class. So, okay, I did not mean for that. Okay, so this next class, and so again, each time we declare a class, we use our class keyword, and then we declare our class name with a capital letter. So in this case, this class name is going to be person. So it's our class keyword, then the name of our class with a capital letter. This tells JavaScript that we're declaring a class. And then from there, the body of our class lives within our curly braces, and we need to make sure we declare a constructor. Now, if we don't add a constructor to our class, I believe the JavaScript engine will automatically add one for you, but it always is good measure to make sure you have a constructor within your class. For those who are super new to classes, basically a constructor is like a special function or method that is used to create and initialize an object that is created within the context of a class. So when we use a class to instantiate an object, we need to make sure we have a constructor that will basically provide us with the data or the blueprint or the instructions for every instance of that class. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to everyone. Each class can only have one constructor. If there is more than one inside of the class, you are going to end up with a syntax error. So just keep in mind that you don't want to be declaring additional constructors for whatever reason. Not sure why you would, but constructors kind of are like the bread and butter of your class, and you want to make sure you're declaring them correctly with everything you need. And then from there, if you add additional methods, they would typically go underneath your constructor. So this constructor is going to have a name and a favorite color. And we will also add a birth year. And these will all be used to describe this person class. So within the body of our constructor, we're going to do very similarly to what we did in the first example. Basically, this dot name is going to be our name value. This dot favorite color is going to be our favorite color value. And then this dot birth year is going to be our birth year value. Okay. And once again, very important to remember that what's on the left-hand side of the equal sign represents the key or the property within the object instance of this class. What's on the right-hand side is the value that gets supplied to the instance of the class based on whatever arguments we give to it. So for example, if I give a name of John, and then it gets set as the value of this parameter, it will represent the value given to the name key or the name property when this class is instantiated as an object. Okay, hope that makes sense to you guys there. So these are the first three properties of our class. Then the fourth property is going to be this dot age. Now notice how we don't have an age parameter. The reason is because we don't need an age parameter. We're going to actually calculate our age using our birth year. So as long as we have a birth year supplied to our class instance, we can use that birth year to calculate the age. So this dot age is just going to be set to this dot calculate age. We're going to create a calculate age function. We haven't done that yet, so this doesn't exist technically, but we are going to be defining this in a moment. Okay. Once again, the reason why we use this is because in this context, this represents the owner of the method. The owner of the method is the class of person. So within this class, we're going to define a method that will be owned by person. So in order to reference that method properly, we need to use this. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So now that we're done with our constructor, let's move down a couple lines. We're going to define our I'm not the greatest at spelling, guys. I'm sorry. So the calculate age method is what we're going to define. It's not going to accept any arguments because it actually has what we need up here. Okay. So what we do is we're just in the body of our method, we're going to declare a variable called date. This will represent a new date object. Okay. For those of you who are familiar with that, with JavaScript, we have access to certain prototypes. So the date object is basically something you can make use of when you need to reference a year, a time, a date. In different formats, you have access to certain things, and you can definitely look this up online. It's a very handy tool. So we're gonna reference the date object, and then on the next line, we're going to pull our age by calculating date dot get full year. So this is one of the methods that we're able to use off of the date object. So get full year, and then from that we are going to subtract this dot birth year. Okay, so the birth year will come from this value that gets given as an argument to the class instance of person, or to the object instance of the person class. Okay, so once we have that calculation, all we want to do is just return the age. And this age will be the value of our age property. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to everyone. Basically, we're returning an age from this calculate age function that gets set as the value for the age property within our person class. So now that we're done with that, we're done declaring our person class. We're actually going to test this out. So let me set a variable called person1. Person1 is going to be the value of a new instance of the person class. And remember, we need to make use of the new keyword in order to instantiate a person class object, right? So once we do that, we go new person. The name in this case will be, let's see, Brandon. And we will then set a year, or sorry, not a year, favorite color. Favorite color in this case, I'll use my favorite color, which is purple. And then our birth year in this case, we will say 1982. Okay. So now that we've instantiated a new object based off of the person class, so an instance of the person class as an object here, we've given it the arguments that it needs. We've given it a name, we've given it a favorite color, and we've given it a birth year in the form of a number. Okay, this will be used in the calculation. So now we can log that to the console. Okay, I'm just going to take the person1 variable here, just log that to the console, save that, and let's refresh. So now you'll see that we've got an object here representing the person class, and we see our age property is 39, birth year is 1982, 39 has been calculated based on the 1982 year that we gave to it, favorite color is purple, name is Brandon. Okay, I believe if we gave it a string of 1982, it should still work. Yeah, so it still seems to give you 39. I just give it numbers because whenever I'm performing calculations and operations, I prefer to use numbers, and I think for the most part it is better measure to use number values or number types, but in this case it will still work if you use a string. So that is the second example within our ES6 classes tutorial. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Just as a quick run through, we've declared two classes. The first class was a simple car class, which basically had 3 arguments to it, and each of the properties we set were set to those 3 values. This is a very basic example, basic implementation of ES6 classes in JavaScript. And for those of you who have worked with React as an example, class components kind of work along this same vein. Of course, there's a lot more to that that has allowed React to be a leveled up version of vanilla JavaScript, but this is where the fundamentals start. So it's very important that you understand this concept if you're looking to level up your skills with a library such as React. So I hope this all makes sense. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those below. And would appreciate a like if you enjoyed this content. I'm hoping to produce more examples for you guys to explain further how more advanced implementations of ES6 classes work.